This DJNTV show is sponsored by DJ Event Planner, Electra Voice, DJ Trivia and DJ Bingo, ProX Direct, NLFX Pro, Promo Only, Odyssey Cases, Perfect Portals, JMOZ Lighting, Instant DJ Requests, and our DJNTV Insiders. This is John Young from DJNTV. Thanks for watching.
Here we are, everybody. It is Monday night. It is 9 o'clock, and thank you very much for taking time out of your night to join us. John, you're getting back into those old habits.
We were talking.
We're talking. All of a sudden, we're live. What?
Wait,
no countdown. No. 3,
2.
No,
Okay.
just run. Just
Boom.
run and go. Oh my goodness.
I need that.
Oh, my
Need
goodness.
that. The little sign in the background. That does the live. That'd be cool.
You were trying to get a jump start on the competition.
That's right. I wanted to be
because you
ahead.
knew when the time was coming, and we didn't.
I wanted to make sure that
Can we
everybody.
move the countdown clock, please.
Yeah, with the countdown clock on.
I need to know when I'm live.
Yeah, I'll try it. I'll try to do
I
better.
can put on the personality. I'm sitting here complaining. Okay,
Yeah, I'm
when
tired of
we're
this
live.
positive stuff. I need to get my.
Tell me when we're live, John.
So we can be negative. That'll be great.
What's going on, man? Just tell me when we're live.
Oh, yeah. We'll get there. Thank you guys for joining us. We got some folks in the chat room that are coming on. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. So yeah, we've got a couple of things we're going to hit tonight. The main topic, of course, talking about competition. We'll kind of dig into that a little bit, and we've got our next DJNTV training night that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. For those of you, though, that missed the last one, this past weekend, you can still go to djntv.com/virtual expo, and it'll take you right to the current one. We'll reset it the week before for the next one. But this past weekend, I ended up having 4 people who watched the thing and were like, "This was so awesome!" And they had gotten some tips and such from some of these people that were talking and sharing from that. So it's really kind of cool to be able to see that people are connecting and saying, hey, this makes some of the things I've been thinking about, how to keep myself from going crazy. It helps to see other people having doing the same things or to going the same direction when it came to not burning out as a DJ. So that was kind of cool. Cool indeed. So, gentlemen, tonight, let's talk about competition.
Okay.
MJ, did you have a disclaimer before we get started?
When you said let's talk about the competition, I just went into LL Cool J, Mama Gonna Knock You Out lyrics.
Yeah.
Think I'm gonna bomb a town. Get it down.
So for tonight's show, one of the reasons that we're going to be talking about this has been a discussion that's online, and it has been literally since, I think the very first time I heard this talked about at a DJ convention was in the late 90s, when people were starting to talk about raising rates, and you can't raise rates because there's too much competition. And it was thrown out from the stage by one of the speakers that I don't have any competition. There's no competition. There is plenty of work for everyone out there. There's no need for us to be competing against each other and undercutting each other. Go into it, as he said, with the idea that these are not competitors. These are colleagues, and that you are unique in what you do, and there just isn't anyone who's competing with you for events. So, guys, I wanted to kind of look at it and get your thoughts on this. That concept that you do not have competition, and you're going to come at it from a different perspective, because obviously, Dan, you're more the wedding mobile guy, and MJ, you're kind of more doing the club type work. how when someone says that you don't, in essence, you don't have, there is no one who is competing with you like that for business. What's your gut response?
Go first, Dan, because I have to find something.
Oh boy.
So first off, I'm going to say absolutely 100% there is, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to basically use kind of when I started. So I'm going to talk about the bar scene for just a brief moment. There was absolutely competition, and it was a race to the bottom for that, and because there was only so many bars that was willing to have DJs in them and pay anything beyond a bar tab, that it suddenly became just a race to the bottom. All right, so now let that aside. Weddings, there's definitely competition, right? Now, how you treat the other person, how you view the other person, I do agree with that concept that they are colleagues, right? There are DJs that I work with locally that I consider not just colleagues, but I also consider friends. Like we will talk, we'll toss ideas back and forth. But when it comes to a Saturday in October, well, let's throw that out, because everybody and their brother could have one in October. When it comes to a Saturday in August, I'm competing against them for an event.
Sure.
Right. I did not have a wedding this past Saturday. In fact, most of the month I didn't really have one. So, when it comes to that, I was competing against people for that. Now, whether I ever got a chance to actually go after the event, or whether, people searched and just didn't find me before they found somebody else, but it's always looking for, you're always competing against them to get that job. Now, that's where I view it. Definitely is there.
Okay. Good angle from the mobile side. MJ, did you find your...
Yes. Here's the thing to keep in mind. Wise man once told me there are billions of people on the planet. You can be replaced, and most likely will be, from one time to another. So to say there's no competition probably means you're getting beat already, or you just don't care, or whatever. Because I found my low point in the DJ world when it came to competition. And I'm going to show you a picture of my competition that literally took 3 DJs' jobs. 3. Not just mine, 2 others, okay? That replaced 3 DJs in a club that holds hundreds of people.
And
don't ever think that you can't be replaced. Don't ever think that you are that special, okay? Because no one is. Every kid with any sort of laptop and a $50 computer is buying for your gig, because you never know who's going to be cheaper. And if it isn't that DJ with the $50 controller, it's the one with the $250 controller, or the $500 controller, or the $1,000 controller. But they're bidding for your job. Wedding guys, young guys are bidding for your job. They know how much you make. $50 for beer is a lot of beer money to a young person, but if they can take your wedding for $500, they're going to take your wedding. So you always have to play the one-up game. There's always competition. And later on, John, I want to get into that special type of competition we talked about at the end of the show last week, because I think that's also very important.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Was that too much at once?
No, that's good.
I think it's important. So we're going to go with this, and I noticed Brian's comment. Brian S. Red, thank you very much for tuning in, man. But he says, does Lizzo have competition? How about the Rolling Stones? Yes, they have competition. Now, I think it's very easy to say, is there another one of them? No. But do they have competition? Absolutely.
Okay. When was the last time Rolling Stones had a #1 hit? Who wants to go look it up? Because after the last time they had a #1 hit, everybody after that was their competition. Simple as that.
That's just, when it comes to selling music, as an example.
Now, I'm not saying they can't make money at what they do, but competition's after that. Mm-hmm. If you just want to stay in this one little niche, which they do, they have their audience, that's what they're going to have. I mean, I got to open up for Martha Reeves in the Vandellas. how many years ago would that have filled a big giant thing? And it had about 200 people in it when I opened for her. Things change. She was still kicking it on stage at 80 some years old, belting out songs. I was like, my goodness, she really did a good job. But, like I said, it all depends on what you see competition as. I think maybe we should define competition.
And I think that's we could definitely go and kind of narrow it down, but I think that there's so many little nuances of it. And that's really what I wanted to hit tonight, is that it isn't a cut and dry. And I think that there's not only percentages, variables, however, involved with that, but I think there's times where it changes. And let's jump back to the Rolling Stones situation. The Rolling Stones, when it comes to selling out a major arena, are probably going to do a better job and will probably be booked at some of these bigger arenas way ahead of when Lizzo would be booked as a solo act type of a situation. Both are very good and very talented, but one is going to have a different draw. And to a point of filling down in Minneapolis, the only one who's really can fill the arena down in Minneapolis better is Garth Brooks. Otherwise, the Stones have been one of the biggest acts that has filled and sold the tickets the fastest, in the last 20 years. Just how it's been.
How well in competition to the Rolling Stones and who'd you say, Garth?
Yeah, Garth Brooks are.
Garth?
Yep.
Do they compare to like a monster truck rally or a NASCAR race?
They'll have a few people, or they'll have a crowd, but they aren't as big as they once were up here, at least.
Okay.
So it's just that no one is who they are, and that really becomes that. So the Rolling Stones don't have any competition being the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones do have competition when it comes to headlining at a major venue. You may have a community that the Rolling Stones just wouldn't work, and instead of them being able to come in there and be the main act and the biggest act of the year, maybe in this community, maybe Garth Brooks is the biggest act to come through the community.
What I was pointing out was that arena sells out how many times a year? Who sells the most seats? Is it a sporting event? Is it a race? Is it something like that?
Obviously,
because
the sports that are there but for one night standalone only, it's generally...
That's what I'm saying. One night a tour coming in to do monster trucks or
it's
1,000 different things come in there. So every one of them is your competition.
Exactly. Yes. That are going to be...
It's not just, when I look at that, I look at the stadium. People are paying for the stadium. So who makes the most money all year at the stadium at single hits? And Garth doesn't even come here, as far as I know. I don't know.
Yeah, but that could be a market that's not conducive to do what he needs to do. Whereas some markets, he put up a show, sold it out. Put up a show, sold it out. Put up a show. What I don't remember. Could have even been Minneapolis a few years back.
5 nights in a row.
It was 11 nights is one place that
11, okay.
that there was just he continued to add. But I think looking at it is we can break that even down farther to the point of that Garth Brooks in concert is competing with movie theaters. He's competing with any place where people want to spend their entertainment. He's competing with Disney Plus to a point. And I think that if we look at it, when we're running our businesses, we're not just competing against this, that, or the other. There's a lot of different things. I mean, even we as entertainers at weddings, we're competing with the things people see and what they experience, because that changes the reality of what they're expecting and the time that they're expecting to have at an event. Because just doing something simple and playing background music type of thing, which might have been acceptable 30 years ago, is no longer going to work, because we are competing with other entertainment methodologies that people have been experiencing, and all of a sudden they're wanting more from their DJ entertainment type of a situation.
Yeah,
competition in the wedding world can be uplights.
Lighting, yes.
You could lose to someone who they have no talent, no skill, but they have money to put into lighting.
And that's very true. There's a DJ company up in Fargo that they had horrible DJs. The music side of it was terrible, but the person who owned it had $100,000 into a light show. And that's what they did. They went and they put in did this big light show, and they were, good DJs who could mix and do their thing were competing against a $100,000 light show that was coming in at a price that they couldn't touch. Lighting was their competition.
Dan, you were going to say something super important.
I don't remember now. I do remember that, like, I still remember when I bought my photo booth. Like, I got it because I was losing out on DJ events to, to others that were in my market because they had a photo booth that they would sell. Not because they were selling at some huge discount, not because their DJ services and their photo booth were cheaper than mine, and not even to the point that they couldn't get a photo booth someplace else and my services and come in at the same price that they were paying this other DJ, but because they wanted to buy them both in the same spot. That's what it boiled down. Because I even drilled him. I'm like, he will rent it separately. Like, you can have me for the DJ and have him for the photo booth, and because he has a couple of them, that can happen. No, we want somebody that can do both.
And I think that's one of the areas in which it becomes dangerous when we completely embrace that I have no competition, which talent-wise, there's only one John Young out there with the talent and does the things that I do. I get that. But if I get that in my head that it's, that I'm better than sliced bread type of a situation and not paying attention to the feedback Dan was getting, you get to the point where you start to not work on your business and not be proactive and changing and tweaking and modifying so that you can stay up on top. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns I have when I see people talking about, I don't have any competition, I'm doing a great job and everyone loves me. It's a really, 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 slippery slope to get there, because when you get to that point, sometimes you don't react and don't treat your business in a way that's going to continue to allow it to be successful. And once you've gotten to the point where you think you're all that in a box of rocks, that's generally when you start to take that slide down the hill.
I think we've got to also be careful, because we could also find ourselves in a slippery slope of trying to mimic our competition or trying to copycat our competition. There's a lot of DJs right now that are jumping in, the social media content game, and I'm going to call that in that aspect of, well, so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did that, so I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not the type of people who can pull off what the other ones are. And so the one thing that you've got to be careful of is to say, well, the competition is doing this, so I'm going to go do that because of it. Yes, maybe you definitely need to maybe emulate some of the things that they're doing, but it needs to be you. It needs to be your personality, because that's how you're going to set yourselves apart from the competition, not by making yourselves that same competition.
Very good point. Very, very good point with that.
I think we should let everybody know that John and I play this game during the thing here, and we read the comments that are coming up on the chat and try to figure out what the comment was referring to we were talking about.
30 seconds, 45 seconds ago. Yeah.
So we apologize if you do say something very relevant and good and we don't get to it, because at least me, I think John does better than I do trying to figure out what that was tagging towards. But I want to bring up the area that I talked about last time about competition. Mm-hmm. And this, I think, is, at least for me, is one of the biggest things, is you can be in reverse of competition, you can be your own worst enemy. And that is competition too, to where you can beat yourself out of the game by getting in your own head, getting in your own space, doing what Dan said about trying to be like someone else and not being you. Because if you're getting hired the way you are, apparently there's something about you people like. Accept that. It may be hard for you to accept people liking you for the way you are, but could be, being more you could get you more jobs. So you can be your own worst competition sometimes, and you have to realize that, and that's a tough thing to kind of like fess up to.
I think that's a great direction, because that's where ultimately my little thesis that I wanted to have tonight is that there's times where you need to acknowledge and understand that there is competition and learn from that aspect of it. And there's times where you can truly look and say, I don't have any competition. My breakdown of this is that when I'm coming to sell my services, that I want to sell my services and talk about what I do to clients and such, like I don't have any competition. That what I do as John Young, as a wedding entertainer, is so unique, and I can we're going to do something so cool and so fun and so much that no one else can do what I'm going to do to help you make your day special. That type of a mentality that I am that person who can do that for you and no one else can. That's the idea of when you're selling, that no, you do not have any competition who can do what you do. When it comes to putting the business together and doing the back end of it and the behind the scenes not selling time, oh yeah, now I've got competition from other DJs. I've got competition. I mean, right now, truthfully, with weddings, my biggest competition right now is bands. We're back to that, and I
thought you were going to say your biggest competition was your son.
No. He's he and I do two different types of shows, very very distinctly different shows, but there's a change. And at one time, we did some things to compete and to give a different flavor from bands way back in the day. And now I'm starting to look back and say, gosh, do we need to start doing that again? Because we need to be able to add an element that gives people the feel of that.
How many times have you seen in your history of DJing it go band DJ, band DJ?
It started out, bands were things, DJ were the basically the ugly side of the industry, the bands hated DJs, and DJs were coming in and taking all their gigs. So that went until the about mid 90s, and then the DJs kind of got into their little area where we were taking 90% of the weddings, or doing 90% of the weddings, and there really wasn't much competition. Bands were off doing their thing, and the smaller bands who weren't big enough to do weddings, they were doing the small bars, whatever. But there wasn't that competition because weddings just were not hiring bands at that time. But I think because of some of the entertainment options today being Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music, where people can go and play these curated playlists that somebody's put together of whatever their favorite music is, the idea that people have looked at that and said, well, gosh, I can play that kind of music at home. Let's get something different for our wedding. Let's get a live band who will play those same exact songs, but they're going to play them live. So let's get that. I think we're running into that situation right now with that. So, I'm having to pay attention to the competition from digital music services that are what people are listening to on a daily basis, and even paying attention to some of the radio things. How radio stations are trying to evolve and fight and get into that competition for their entertainment ears. And then I have to see what are bands doing that are getting it. Which bands are the ones that are doing multiple weddings because people are really enjoying what type of shows they are doing. At one time, Johnny Holm, he's got a variety band, and he's been doing this since the 60s up here in the upper Midwest. At one time, I went to see his shows to see, why is he so popular? It's because he's a DJ with band instruments. He played, and they had tight sets, and they were literally going from song to song, beat mixing their music, and they were great at it. But it's like, okay, so they just are really good DJs because it sounds like the actual album edit. They're singing the album version of it. It's not like they're adding anything to it, but they're blending them. They're beat mixing and going from song to song to song.
Yeah, there's a couple bands here that just as a DJ, I listen to their transitions and go, "That was good." They just know how to switch keys and move on to stuff. That's again, if you can do that, that's about entertainment. Mm-hmm. You can keep an audience's attention. I don't know if there's a lot there that can be a competition for you, someone's ability to keep a crowd's attention. And that could be someone on a microphone, because we have a lot of guys in the business are very good on a microphone. Other guys do it other ways. So,
and that's the thing is, if you're not paying attention to what's going on around you, is microphone becoming a bigger thing, or is beat mixing becoming a bigger thing in your area? If we're not paying attention, you can life goes pretty fast, and then it'll go right on by type of thing.
I think it's that nowadays the competition is DJs who use software that does its own mixing.
Wait.
I know.
You use software that does its own mixing.
Virtual DJ with that
but
auto mix.
It can do it. But I do it. The other one, you can't do it. It does it itself. It does nothing but it itself. I don't know its name, but guys out there with that. As much as I bust on things, there's guys out there who have that they don't literally have no DJ skills whatsoever and get jobs because of the software's ability. The same way
I know DJ on the iPad is really starting to take over, and they should do something about that. I
look at even guys, let's say you have a competition, another person in your area that has the exact same lights as you do, but they have really good DMXing skills. They can up you just on that. The weirdest things you have to look at. I've always said this is a business of one-upmanship. Whatever way you want to talk about it, presentation, like client interaction, there's always that one-upmanship to do something better than someone else.
I think it's also important. Like, I'm seeing some of the scrolling through the chat and Brian again talking about, the fact that in some ways we're using the word competition and kind of almost as it's a threat. But in a way it is, because this is a game that that we're playing with the idea that we need to stay at what we're doing. We can't be complacent. We can't let it just go by the wayside. We have to treat it as if it's a threat. Now, whether that means it's a threat, meaning that they are going to take all of our jobs, or a threat that we can't be just even kill. We've got, as MJ said, we've got to step our game up. Now, I think it's we've got to be very careful, though, that you don't take the idea of one-upping as that controller that finally came out last week, that we got to go buy that, or the latest light that was there, that's how I'm going to one up myself, because you can quickly find yourselves in a different situation, because as MJ said, that person down the street has the exact same light as you, but guess what? They know how to use it. All you did was buy it and stick it and hit sound active, and using those kind of things prevents you. Using those types of excuses prevents you from really improving yourself, to take that next step, so that you are keeping yourself honest and keep working forward to make yourself better.
Here's something that I think people don't take into consideration as much as they should, competition-wise. Again, I'm a very competitive person, so when you mentioned this topic, I was like, I got to be careful not to talk too much tonight, because I'm really into it. But how you look, if you don't take care of yourself, you're losing to competition, because people want to look at a pretty person. I'm sorry, they just do. And I don't
watch our show.
It's why they tune in. But no, seriously, that if you just don't care how you look, and I don't mean necessarily you wear dirty clothes, but if you have a guy down the street who's doing stuff to look in shape and is able to move around more comfortably and interact with people without, bumping things with body parts and knocking them off tables, that's part of it too. When I say one-upmanship in this competition, everything and everybody is vying to get my job. Whether it's subtle, forced, taken by them, or me giving it up by not trying very hard. Mm-hmm. All of that is competition to me. By me not doing the right posts on social media, here's my biggest competition is I hate interacting with people online. So somebody else can interact with someone online and they go, I just like him better. He's got a better personality, and hire them for an event. So everything is part of this. Again, if you just do it for a couple $1 a week and a weekend, just do it. But if you really want to make a dent in the world with what you do and leave your mark, everybody and everything, including a 30-pin iPod, is your competition.
It definitely can be. And I think, Dan said when he was talking a little bit about the threat that Brian mentioned I don't think there's a situation we're looking at where, as an established DJ, that everyone's going to take all of our shows. I think it becomes a concern of looking at the competition and paying attention to them is to be aware that you could lose the point of viability with your business because you're doing so few shows. And there is a concern to that. And many DJs don't know where that point is. Is the point of viability for your DJ business 10 shows? If you get under 10 shows for the year, have you gotten to the point now where where it doesn't pay to run the business or have a business? Is it 20 shows? Is it 5? Whatever it is. But that point of viability is you're going to have that somewhere. Whereas just because you have been around, you're going to book some people. There's going to be some people out there who know you, refer you, and love you from the past. So it's not like you're not going to be able to still do shows, or they're not going to take them all. It's not that. But the growth for future, to be able to book cold calls once in a while, or to be in a place where people will see you and say, wow, that person is unique and fun, I want to get a card from them. That's really where paying attention to what others are doing, what's going on out there, looking at other entertainment ideas to see what they're doing. Because again, when they're entertaining people and we're entertaining people, so to a point, they're not a threat or anything to that effect, but they are competing to entertain people. So what can I learn from what they do that might be something I can bring into my style and make what I do better?
I had a point I was going to make, and I forgot what it was already.
You probably are waiting for me to come up with my list of the negative things that happen when you have fooled yourself into thinking you don't have competition.
So, John, what happens when you fool yourself into thinking that you have no competition?
Well, let me just...
Great question, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
I think I've got a couple of ideas on this. First, of course, we've been talking about this. You end up having that lack of drive to improve your business and to grow as an entertainer. When you kind of ignore the competition idea that you don't have it, you start to not pay attention to local trends of what's going on, whether in the industry or even in your local market, and that's a problem. You'll have a disconnect with some of the prospects who are going to be saying, "Hey, we saw these really cool things, or we know these things are happening, or have you seen this?" And we like, hey, what I do is so great, I don't need to change or adjust or even add anything to what I do. So you're going to have a disconnect with your prospects. You can start to develop arrogance, and arrogance doesn't always come across very well. Then that leads to depression. Then that leads to declining skills and abilities. Then that leads to drinking problems. Then that leads to weight gain. Then that leads to old age, and then you become the bitter, grumpy person in a rocking chair on the front porch.
Yeah. When I was a kid...
Wow, that progressed fast.
When I was a kid, we didn't have...
It was a great list.
When I was a kid, we didn't have any money to give each other presents. We'd sneak into someone's house, steal something from them, wrap it up, and give it back.
It was great.
We liked it that way.
That's what my kids do for Christmas. That's kind of a weird thing, but that's what they do.
How do you think I get all my gift ideas? No,
exactly.
I wanna throw something into that. Dan, do you have something? Because you might have something more relevant than I do. I just have a feeling you do. No, because my thing I was going to say before, I think would create a stopping point in that quick dissension of that downhill. This is where I think people come up with that phrase, there is no competition. Because we all have to define what we consider success. And if you are doing what you think is successful, you could say, and maintaining it, you could say there's no competition. I'm achieving what I want to achieve. I have a friend, his goal is to only DJ enough a month to pay for his truck payment. So he works a day job, just wants to make sure he makes his truck payment every month. Someone else, it literally can be, if I have a single night off, that's bad. Not even if they need the money. If I have a night off, that's a bad thing. Success could be, this is one of my determinations of success, that I get to pick and choose the jobs I take. That I just don't take them because I need them. I pick the ones I want. So if I'm doing that, then I'm going to say, I'm very successful right now. Where someone else would be like, but you have three nights off this month. So where in that quick dissension of things does a person label their success in a way that can hurt them? Because does that make sense? No?
Yeah, no, it does.
Yes, no.
I was going to say, one of the things I also think that creates that problem with just even that dissension is that it comes from, exactly as MJ is saying, not having an understanding of what you deem as being success, or even just being profitable, doing what you want. but not having a plan for your business, not having that idea of what you want out of your business, and then not tracking your business to determine that. Now, an easy way to track is I want to be busy on every, from the mobile side, I want to be doing weddings every Saturday from April through October. And anything outside of that is a failure. Then you're going to have potential problems along the way, but it's also going to be easy to track. But if you're looking at something within the standpoint of, well, in order for me to consider this to be successful, I need to have a profit margin of this, and I need to make sure that I have this many calls coming in, and you need to make sure that this many contacts are being sent out, and potentially this many contracts. Like, you have your business defined. Then, if there is a slip, you start to analyze what is going wrong. You use the data to then figure out that next piece that keeps you above that bar, that keeps you pushing forward, that keeps you relevant, that keeps you to where the only competition is yourself. Not because there isn't competition, but because you are the driving force to make yourself better.
Well said, Daniel.
Thank you. I'm going to take a drink. Mega sick.
Good.
So defining success, that's an interesting direction to go with this, because it can vary so much. And I think that's a part that I think sometimes we get caught up in, is that I see the success Dan is having, where he's, doing all these dances with people standing on top of speakers and doing all this. And that looks like a great party. And I might define success as those awesome parties that Dan's throwing. And then I look at my own parties and say, wow, my people don't dance on the speakers. My parties just suck. And I'm defining success by someone else's abilities or standards compared to making it my own personal success in a situation. And I think that's tough, because when we go and, we're doing videos and such and talking about things and are going to conventions and learning from things, we almost become very homogeneous in our definition of success, that, we've got to have a profitable business. Well, technically, for some people, that's not important.
In our business, my side of it, it's how many Instagrammable moments do you have per weekend? It doesn't matter if you make $1,000 for an hour's worth of work. Do you have pictures of a crowd going crazy in front of you that you can share?
Because you've found out that leads to
people liking you, not success. People can identify, again, your competition can be you. So if you set your goal of success of being liked online and don't make any money from it, you have just beaten yourself by not having good goals. Be your own worst competition by picking the wrong idea of success.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and getting into the whole goal setting and being able to measure, which we were kind of alluding to in this part of this talk tonight, is a big part of moving forward beyond the point of identifying that there is competition and now let's move forward and develop something that's successful. You've got to have those goals and understand who you are and goals that will pertain to you as a person.
I've seen many guys go into clubs and say, I will DJ here tomorrow night for free, open for you, if I can bring my video and photography guy. Just so that they have photographs to then send out, because nobody knows but the owner that they're doing it for free.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken cheap jobs for that before, because I know they're a good photograph moment that I can use for years.
And I think that's also a point to kind of recognize, whether it's that aspect or whether it's another one where, John says, I'm, he's looking at my posts and seeing how I got somebody up on a speaker and had them going. What he doesn't know is that the angle of my camera was so close that the only people you saw was the three that decided to get up on my speaker, while the whole other place was empty.
Camera angles.
And so exactly the camera angle or the close view or something like that. And I think sometimes we can beat ourselves up trying to be like insert celebrity DJ here, when all we know is what we see and what they share.
Good point.
And so I think what it becomes important is, yes, if you see consistency throughout, there's probably some things to be learning from them. Okay. But if all you're seeing is something very similar, something almost staged, to something, something to where you're not seeing the whole picture, take that with a grain of salt and stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, but rather try and make yourself better to be better for you and your clients.
So, how do we develop ourselves in our own unique style? This is kind of how I wanted to kind of wrap things up after, we want to get to that point where we can sell that there's no one who competes with me, because I'm a unique talent and there's no one that can do what I do. And my name is Tom Hanks and you should hire me and give me lots of money. But how do we develop and improve and grow, or whatever it takes to become that unique performer?
I think it's very tricky, because, and one of the reasons why I struggle with this, because you say you need to be who you are, but you also shouldn't always just be who you are, right? Because if we stay in that stagnant place, if we are who we are, then we're not growing. So it's very tricky to try and improve yourself in such a way, but not lose who you are. That's one of the things those of you who know me on a personal level, I struggle just with the idea of like fashion and being forefront. I am a t-shirt, jeans, shorts type of person 99% of the time, right? But when I'm doing an event and I need to dress up, I struggle with trying to be cutting edge and being fashionable. So I've looked for ways to make myself better and yet still be who I am. But even at that, I struggle, because I see the other ones and I see people on TV and I see, this is the look that everybody's using, that you should look if you're wanting to be cutting edge. And it's like, I can't do that. I feel like I'm not me. So you have to look for ways that are within your window where you're looking to improve, not just saying it's just me and I can't do anything different.
That's a whole other concept right there, Dan, about saying I can't do that and defeating yourself. And maybe you can, not saying that you can pull off a fashion look, but just saying, well, I can't do that. But if you tried, maybe, it might be something else. That can be a thing right there. You don't believe in yourself enough to give something a try. Because we all see there's a quote that I've been hanging on for about 2 months now, that we often see our present through the lens of our past. And that's not reality sometimes. And that's a tough thing to accept. Like for me, it's being old. I literally DJ alongside guys that I'm the same age as their parents. They are my competition. They are everything. They're my friends too. Mm-hmm. But that's a tough thing to look at, that they can take a picture from any angle and it looks good. And I've got to get that right angle where I'm like, or like I got to Photoshop that later, sort of thing, but it's constant work. I think even if it's a little bit of work, you can never just stop. My mom said years ago, when you stop learning, you start dying. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a way of things to look at everything we do, business-wise, talent-wise, relativeness with music, relativeness with equipment, relativeness with things that are done at weddings now that weren't done before at weddings, or things that used to be done that aren't done now. That you have to be flexible and changeable, or you're going to see a diminishing return constantly.
I would definitely agree with that. That flexible and adaptable sounds cooler than changeable.
It's my words. I just pick words sometimes to make them up. But that for me is my hardest thing, because I don't like change of any sort whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But I push myself constantly to get out and go places and do things. And it may look like, well, people all think, well, you're always out. You're always doing stuff. I'm pushing myself to, because what I want to do is sit right here in the studio and forget the world exists for a couple of weeks. I got enough food here. If I don't run out, I can have it delivered. I don't need the rest of the world. I've got enough in my head to keep myself busy for the rest of my life, but I'm not going to grow as a person. My business is not going to grow.
Sure.
And I think I'm going to stagnate in my happiness very quickly if I don't. And that's a part of success, is how happy are you? You could be making money, having bookings right and left, but if you're unhappy, should you be doing that?
And that's definitely a topic for another night.
Sorry, I just
if you're unhappy, if you're unhappy, should you continue?
Because there are very, like you said at the beginning of the night, a lot of very bitter, angry DJs. Because for those, I don't even know if I should be going into this. We're almost out of time. But I had a guy hit me up about a month ago, and I shared it with John and Dan. Like, how could you be a DJ? I've never heard of you before. And I'm like, this whole long thing about, like, I've never heard of you. And I'm like, well, I've never heard of you. And he's telling me, like, how can you be a DJ? I've never heard. I'm like, what the freak are you doing, dude? And he was just bitter because he looked like a person who had been the same person for the past 30 years. He makes no attempt. His equipment. He just talked the other day I saw him post something on his thing about the fact that he still does a party once a month where he uses all CDs. If that makes you money, you're successful, I guess.
Yeah.
But you can't let someone beat you up because they're doing something different than you. You can't. I don't even know how to word it.
Really, in a situation like that, especially if it would be in your market that would be doing something like that, that's one way for them to deal with competition to a point.
That's the bitter. That's where I was going with
the bitterness.
The bitterness that if you weren't able to be flexible with that kind of reaction can be your future from now on.
Yeah, and that's not a healthy thing. That puts you down on my list as somewhere between number 5 at depression and the declining of skills and abilities, which leads to the drinking problem, which leads to weight gain, which leads to old age, which leads to bitter, grumpy person.
My first thought when I was reading what he was sending me was, how drunk is he?
See?
Because it was like 7. Belligerent was a half an hour ago.
That was number 7.
But I just want to take a second to encourage you, and then John's going to close us out for the night or whatever. I don't know what he's going to do, but you are stronger than you think you are to try things that you don't think you can try. If you want to advance and grow, you can. It may take some work and it may take help from a friend, but don't ever say you can't. That's one of the things that I think you need to put into your vocabulary. You can say, I don't want to. That's acceptable.
That's
it's
different.
your choice.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't. I believe you can. You might need to ask for help, which is the thing I hate the most in the world, but hey, whatever. That's what I want to encourage you. Leave that encouragement for me.
MJ, will you help me dress better?
I think Dan, you could find, because a couple weeks ago we talked about wearing tennis shoes with dress clothes. I think you could find the right wear because I saw a pair the other day that I'm like, I should send these to Dan. That you can find the right pair.
That's what I need help with right there.
That would work. See, here's the thing that could change a lot. And again, say I'm not fashionable. I don't even care what you say. But the cut of the pants you have down near the shoe can change to where if you have a pair of tennis shoes and you have a certain cut that's bigger, it's going to make them look sloppy. But if you tailor it down to taper with your leg, that tennis shoe is going to look like a nice little fashionable accent at the bottom. So little things like that can change a lot, where you might need help by a tailor to bring them in a little bit, and that could be the change of everything. None of you believe me, I can tell.
And then you would be able to beat your competition.
Well, it's a way to make yourself comfortable and happy. It doesn't, if you're not happy in those changes and you're beating your competition, what's the use of the changes if you're not happy and still beating the competition?
That is true.
The idea is to get both.
You may look, but if you can't be comfortable and enjoy yourself at what you do, then you might as well be going and selling French fries. I'm just, kind of.
Ding, fries are done. Ding, fries are.
Hey, would you like an apple pie with that, sir?
Apple pie.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap things up.
I got Dan to shake his head.
You got it. Thank you guys for being with us tonight. Up next is Hanging with Howie in the Chill Room, DJNTV.com/chill. You guys can bounce out there. And I'm guessing I see both Howie and Brian in there. I'm hoping the guys kind of go. I'd like to hear a little bit more on Brian's thoughts. So maybe they might add this as one of their topics tonight. Howie usually has a pretty good topic each Monday night for the Chill Room. But if they end up doing a double session tonight, because I'd like to hear Brian's thoughts on this, because he's been pretty spot on with what he's been talking about here and giving a neat perspective. So I think for those of you who are watching this in replay or watching it later and you weren't able to follow the live chat, you should be here on Monday nights, because then you can follow along to what's going on in that chat room. There's some great stuff there for sure. Again, DJNTV.com/chill. If you missed it earlier, we did our first interview. Mike Cordero is going to be doing some industry interviews and industry spotlights. And the first one went live tonight. He did the Brothers Band, an alt kind of an EDM band that has been coming out of Ontario, Canada, I believe, is where they're out in that neck of the woods. It's kind of a fun little interview. You guys can bounce out and check that out. Just out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/discjockey news. You can find that and check that out. And then tomorrow night, we've got the Tuesday Night Music Show, and then I think we're going to stream we've got stuff coming to you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week on the channel. So just hang out and check those out on YouTube. So I think we're good.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much for taking time out of your night to join us. Hopefully you realized your competition, who isn't your competition, who might be your competition. Yeah, just go rewatch the show again, all right?
Yeah, and be successful.
Have yourself a good one. We'll see you next time.
Bye.